It's bigger than the trauma, bigger than the pain. We breaking chains, shifting lanes in the brain. From the ciphers to the couch, we bringing change. Narratives reframed, now the story ain't the same. Bars like therapy, beats like a guide. Voices amplified where the truth can't hide. From south side to wherever you reside, hip-hop heals, let it be alright. Healing through hip-hop.
What's good, everybody? It's your host, Shaa, and you're now locked into Healing Through Hip-Hop, the podcast where we are discovering and exploring the therapeutic power in hip-hop culture. What a powerful intro, for real. Whoa. Shout outs to me. Nah, let's get right into it, though. So, very first episode of Healing Through Hip-Hop, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about a few things. We're going to do a little bit about me. Then we're going to talk about what hip-hop therapy is. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about why hip-hop therapy. And then we're going to conclude today's episode with a little bit about what future episodes may entail. So let's get straight to it. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Shaa. I'm from Southside Jamaica, Queens. One of the best parts of New York City. Do not argue with me. Argue with your mother. Nah, for real. But in true hip-hop fashion, it's very competitive, very arrogant, very rep your city like in hip-hop culture. So that's exactly what I'm about to do. I was born in South Jamaica, Queens in the early 90s, right? South Jamaica, Queens, home of the Lost Boys, Lou Got Cash, Nicki Minaj, 50 Cent, Tony Yayo, Lloyd Banks. And then if you open up those doors to the entire borough of Queens, you got artists like Nas, Roxanne Shante, Noriega, Run DMC, LL Cool J, Ja Rule, Mobb Deep, A Tribe Called Quest, Public Enemy, Marley Marl, Salt and Pepper, Waka Flocka, R.I.P. Chinks, R.I.P. Stack Bundles, one time. So Queens, and I mean, this is not even half of the list, right? So Queens has probably produced some of the best rappers in the world. And that's just that on that. So this is, as you can see, that's probably why I'm so addicted, or not addicted, but just intrigued by hip hop culture on a deeper level than just being a participant of it. Like, I started to realize that hip hop was more than just rap music. It was an entire culture with language, with fashion, with rules, regulations, moral codes, personal values, community values, everything that all of the elements that you need for a culture, hip hop has it. So that's how I kind of started really getting into like wanting to know more about hip hop on a deeper level. And it started by me just watching back in the day shows on MTV like behind the scenes, getting into the artist's lives. And a lot of the things that would strike me is that even though these people were successful, and at that time, being a child, and you think that these people back in the day, celebrities were like, I know, especially if you're a certain age, you probably wouldn't understand how celebrities used to be like private and mysteries. So like you wouldn't know nothing about a celebrity. They weren't like on Twitter and on Instagram saying anything. They were like ghosts. So it would be the paparazzi like will find them and snap pictures of them, and it would be like, if you would get like a video of a celebrity back then, you was probably like gonna become a millionaire overnight. Like that's how serious it was. So, and that's why, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I really, let's focus up. Hip hop was so important in my life before I even became into my profession. So I'm studying to be a clinical social worker right now. And by next year, I'll be receiving my master's degree in social work. Shout out to me. Shout out to all the social workers too, because it's really rigorous. That's a real rigorous program. And honestly, we all have ideas in the hood of social workers being just like baby snatchers that come up in your house, ruin your life, separate families, like for real. And now as I study more and I really am involved in the field, I have so much more respect for these individuals who basically devote their entire well-being and lives for the betterment of their community and other people. So shout out to all the social workers out there doing their things. This podcast is really for us to be able to understand that everything that we learn, even in our clinical social work practice, can be applied in every population everywhere, right? So this is why modalities like hip hop therapy are so important, because it could tap into cultures that are not really highlighted as much in our clinical textbooks. So that's enough about me for now. You're going to learn so much more about me as this podcast goes on. So let's get into what hip hop therapy is. And in short, hip hop therapy is a modern approach to mental health care. It uses hip hop as a therapeutic tool to support individuals who may not connect to traditional forms of therapy. So I'm studying to be a clinical social worker, like I said, and I've worked with kids who are considered at risk, or rather at promise, who struggle with mental health and community violence. And when trying to connect with these kids, I noticed in the beginning that when I would try to relate to them just based upon what I've been taught in school or by training, that it wasn't really working. I noticed that I would get more mediocre responses from them when I would try to like just ask them questions. Like, let's say, for example, a child got into a fight in school and I asked him or her, "Hey, what made you so angry today that you reacted that way?" It would be, "I don't know, nothing." 'Cause silence. No type of real trusting relationship was being formed when I would just try to like do everything the quote unquote proper way, which is another word for the Eurocentric way of doing everything, but another time. So like I said, I would try to do it that way and I wouldn't get as much response from the kids. So I remember one day I was just like, you know what? I'm about to just talk to them like how I know they talk to each other. So one of my kids had gotten into some issues and they came to the program and I was just like, yo, why you on BT? Looking at me like, BT, what you know about that? And after the shock, I just like, whoa, what you talking about? Like, so realizing, yeah, I speak the same language you do. I know exactly what you're talking about. Why you on BT, like I said. And I understood that quickly, that I was getting way more authentic responses. Now you telling me what happened. What happened on Snapchat last night? What happened when you pulled up this morning to school? All type, like I'm getting the ins and outs as if I'm a part of the crew. Just by talking to them differently. And in the beginning, I'll be honest with you, I struggle with like speaking in slang with like in slang with kids, right? Because it's like we get taught, especially being like a millennial, we get taught like from an early age, you got to talk a certain way about your parents, and then you got to talk a certain way around your friends. You know, you don't really, how you talk in the streets is not how you talk at home. And you, as adults, you know, we want to talk to kids, we want to encourage them to speak proper, right? So I noticed that after doing some soul searching, like, damn, Shaa, you really are going through some internal racism right now. Because in your head, Ebonics, right? Because we could downplay it and call it slang, but we're really talking like Ebonics and African American vernacular English, right? So I was like, you low-key believe that that's not a legitimate language, that you shouldn't be talking that way, that it's a time and place for that. And when you are in a professional or in a program where you're supposed to be judged on your behavior, you should be speaking proper at all times. Incorrect. And I had to really get that out of my head, because growing up, I remember my relationships with certain staff in the school, the staff that would really talk to me like they knew like how I talked. Those are the staffs I love. Those were the staff I felt comfortable telling what was going on with me, versus the staff that would come around and just like it felt like they were judging me. So I started to think like, why should I be less authentic and potentially like lose like or be less welcoming to the kids when I could just be myself and let them be their self. So I realized the connection that I had with these kids was bigger than slang. I noticed that when I would wear certain sneakers, the reaction I would get from them, I automatically became like sanctioned in their eyes. I realized that when I would recognize certain TikTok dances or certain songs they were singing, and I would be like, "What you know about that?" Like it would kind of like make them open up a little bit more, and I would become more trusting because I understood them, and I wasn't coming from them in a place where I'm telling them that they shouldn't do that. Especially when I know as soon as I leave this place called work, I'm talking just like that. I'm listening. I'm watching my friends do the same TikTok dances. Like I'm seeing all these things you seeing. Like I'm listening to the same. Well, I'm about to say radio, but that don't exist no more. Do it. But I'm listening to the same top 40, top 100 songs that you listening to that's going around on your Apple Music is on mine too. So, and when I got deeper and deeper and deeper, I started to realize this connection is more than even just blackness too. It's hip hop. And once I started to accept that it was hip hop, it was way more easier for me to just accept it. Like, I no longer struggle with wondering if I was doing something wrong. And like I always say to people too, it's important to still maintain your boundaries even with being your authentic self. So I still wasn't having a lot of stuff though. Like you're not cursing in front of me, you're not cursing at people. I'm still gonna correct you if you say something way out of pocket. So just because I might speak the same language to you, don't mean we're gonna use the language in the way you want to use it for to like to like demean people or hurt people. We're not having that. So it's still like boundaries that you have even with like some people might say trying to fit in with the kids, but in true actuality, hip hop been around what 50 years now. Most people from the inner city are hip hop. It's no longer about fitting in with the kids when we are all a part of the same culture. And last year, around March, I want to say March, April, I got the opportunity to discover hip hop therapy and realize that it was an actual, real, legitimate form of therapy that can be used with primarily students, but with anybody who need therapy and is a part of hip hop is a part of hip hop culture. So what hip hop therapy is a modern approach to mental health care. It uses hip hop as a therapeutic tool to support individuals who may not connect with traditional forms of therapy. And once I got introduced to that last year by some amazing clinicians out in Westchester, shout out to Yogi and Shamar for real. They really doing their thing. Not only are they doing the work with the kids at the schools, in the prisons, in the communities, they're also teaching other clinicians how to incorporate hip hop therapy in their practice. Like that's like a well-rounded social worker right there. You usually have a community social worker, a school social worker, a prison social worker, um, a training social worker, like somebody who like on a macro level who teaches. But to get an entire package like that is really almost unheard of in our field. So shout out to them for real. Again and again, follow them at Teens Under Construction on Instagram. And if you're in the Westchester area, definitely tap in with them. Get your kids involved with them because they out here changing lives every day. And they're going to really be some of the pioneers in this hip hop therapy industry. So shout outs to them. And like I said, so hip hop therapy using the core elements of hip hop, which is DJing, MCing, graffiti art, and breakdancing. And of course, the great Africa Bambaataa established the fifth element, my favorite element, which is knowledge. How could I almost forgot knowledge? Like I'm ODing. Knowledge. We can never forget knowledge because, like the old saying goes, they can take everything away from you but what you know. Like they can never take that away from you. Ever, 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 ever. So always hold on to what you know to be true. So what does a session look like in hip hop therapy? So let's say you need therapy, you want to get a therapist, and you're not really connecting too much to talk therapy, really sit down, a stereotypical idea of therapy of like some older person coming into the room, you laying on a couch, they got their notepad, they telling you how do you feel about that and what made you do that. You're not really feeling that idea of therapy, right? And a hip hop therapy session may look like, hey, let's talk about the song you had on repeat all weekend as you was going through it. What song was that? Okay. What bar stood out to you the most? What's the part of the song that you kept rewinding over and over and over and over again that you couldn't miss? That if you missed that part of the song, you had to double back and make sure you played it again, you know? Or you might have your own bars. You might be an artist and have your own bars, and we could use your own art to decipher those feelings that you may be having, you know? So what made you write this? What are you talking about? Who is this person? Where are you at when you writing this? Like, what feelings came up for you when you was writing this song, you know? And that's how a session of hip hop therapy may look. So I always like to say that I didn't choose this path and that this path chose me. So I was born hip hop, like I said before, shout out South Jamaica Queens, and in a neighborhood similar to like where hip hop was born. A neighborhood victimized by white flight and urban decay. And despite the lack of infrastructure, the lack of resources, the lack of opportunities in my neighborhood and in the South Bronx where hip hop was born in the early 70s, we still found ways to prevail, ways to hustle, ways to love each other, ways to represent each other in the times of need, times to like still find peace even in an environment that seemed to have no hope. We still rose above our expectations. I did. Multiple other people that I know that are from South Jamaica Queens, like listen to that list I said earlier, you know, about all of the rappers that come from where I'm from and come from all the neighborhoods across America, across the world at this point, right? And each of those communities, each of those individuals in those communities have stories to tell, and they have been using hip hop as a medium to express those stories. Sometimes those stories are happy, a lot of the times they're gruesome. But what they do is allow individual stories to be heard on a global basis, and it kind of like goes against what the status quo is saying. Because the status quo is saying that the culture of poverty we have in the United States is that you work hard and you get rewarded. And we know that no matter how hard you work, if you're in an environment that doesn't have anything for you, you probably won't be going anywhere and you probably won't be getting anything, you know? So hip hop has exposed America for all the lies that she has been telling for the last 500 years now. So hip hop was born on August 11th, 1973. Let's put up the invitation or the flyer right here. Put up the flyer to the most important party in the last 52 years. This party right here changed the trajectory of so many people's lives. We can go on and on and on. But like I said, shout out to the most important party in the last 50 something years. DJ Kool Herc was throwing a party for his little sister at the time, and it was a back to school party. And what made this party so special was not because it was just a back to school party. Who cares? It was because of what was going on at the party. DJ Kool Herc was spinning on the records, looping the records on a break, playing that break over and over and over again, looping it, looping it, looping it. It's like the chorus. Think of like the beat in the middle of the chorus going over and over again. Everybody started bugging. Oh, it's crazy in here. Then you got what will become the B-boys and B-girls, the break dancers, taking that break he's doing and like coming up with all type of creative dance moves. So in the beginning, the break dancers was like the part, like for our generation, people like around 30 to 35, 20, maybe 25 to 35 years old right now. Remember Getting Light? Like how that would like, so imagine that. So that was like Getting Light at back then. You insert Coke LaRock on the mic, smooth talking on the mic, rhyming. It's Coke LaRock and it's 9 o'clock. And he going on and on and on. And he become the first MC, the master ceremony. So all of this is happening in the party and people are excited. It's never been done before like this in this way. And what Kool Herc did that night of that party was really give hip hop, bring all of those elements of hip hop into each other, into the same space, into the same room. And it was like magic. And from there it was up. And what's most interesting about hip hop is this is happening with no little to no adult supervision. They didn't have any money to go buy any type of like equipment or anything like that. We get into that in few in further episodes because I could really like I'm getting too excited. Hip hop was born in the South Bronx by primarily teenagers with little to no adult supervision, little to no resources, little to no opportunities for success. Born out of the grit of the South Bronx during a period of history where that section of the city was under economic collapse. White flight, urban decay, lack of support from the local government created like a recipe for disaster, but it was exactly what hip hop needed to be born. So hip hop isn't born if those kids had something to do. Though hip hop isn't born if we had support from the local government. Hip hop wasn't born if their neighborhood wasn't burning down. Yes, the Bronx was burning. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Bronx was burning. And look at some pictures right here of the kids outside playing in the rubble. You know, so this is going on day in and day out. And it's really, and while it's sad to see, you know, these young children playing in rubble, it is also still remarkable to me that even in the most heinous, unmotivating conditions, these kids still just wanted to play. Like that's the beauty of like childhood right there. And yeah, so coming from that environment and being able to form a culture so powerful that would kind of take off. Of course, at that time, they didn't know what they were doing. They thought hip hop would just be something from the South Bronx that they did. Little did they know, though. And like I said, what I love about hip hop is its conception story. So that's why I really chose hip hop therapy, and I chose to, if I'm gonna be in this field, if I'm gonna deliver services to people, I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna do it through hip hop, and I'm gonna do it bringing my authentic self. So that is pretty much why hip hop therapy, what it is, and it's like just a real short intro today for the first episode of what it is and why I chose it. A little bit about me. I really only told y'all where I'm from and what I do so far, but as the podcast goes on, you'll get to know more about me, what to expect in future episodes. So I plan on having guests come onto the show, people who are involved in hip hop cultures or avid fans of hip hop, having them come on and getting to know a little bit more about them and how hip hop has been a savior in their lives. I want to do artist spotlights, like documentary style episodes of particular artists and how they used hip hop to kind of heal them and talk and highlight like their life stories and how, you know, hip hop was a tool to kind of get them out of the situation they was in. Then I also want to do like lyrical breakdowns and talk about hip hop culture in ways that sometimes not always therapeutic, just to talk about hip hop culture and what's going on. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for tuning into the first episode. I hope that, you like it. I want to people right now in the comments below, drop your favorite song. If you could think of a song that, not even your favorite song, the song that would be the soundtrack of your life right now. Like whatever you're going through right now, what's the song that you got on repeat right now? Drop that in the comments below. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for coming out. And we out, y'all.
This is healing through hip-hop, where the beats and the rhymes collide with your soul. Exploring the therapy in the culture, one track at a time. Let's heal.